Google Chrome is the undisputed giant of the web, functioning as the default engine for the vast majority of the planet. Think of it as the Honda Civic of browsers. It is reliable, universally compatible, and powers almost every web application you use for work or play. It sits at the top of the market share chart because it is integrated deeply into the Google ecosystem. If you use Google Docs, Gmail, or YouTube, Chrome just works. Its identity is built on simplicity and massive extension support. You want an ad blocker or a password manager? Chrome has it. But here is the real-world reality of using Chrome. It is incredibly fast at rendering pages because of the Blink engine, which is the underlying code that interprets websites, but it has a legendary appetite for your computer's memory. If you have 8 gigabytes of RAM or less, Chrome will eventually turn your computer into a stuttering mess once you hit 10 or 15 tabs. When people talk about Chrome being a resource hog, they are talking about how it sandboxes every single tab as its own process. This is great for security because if one site crashes, your whole browser does not die, but it is brutal for your battery life. Regarding suffixes, you'll often hear about Chrome Canary or Chrome Beta. Canary is essentially an alpha test version that updates daily and is often broken. Do not use it for daily work. Beta is a more stable testing ground for features that will hit the main public release in a month or two. Comparing Chrome to the old guard, it decimated Internet Explorer by prioritizing speed and modern web standards. But today, its main rival is Edge. While Edge is built on the same engine as Chrome, Chrome stays ahead by simply being the platform where every new web feature is tested first. If you want a browser that never surprises you and works with every website on Earth, this is your baseline. Microsoft Edge is the primary challenger, and it's essentially Google Chrome with a different skin and a massive bundle of integrated features. Microsoft rebranded its browser to use the Chromium engine, meaning it can run every single Chrome extension perfectly. The identity of Edge is that it is the browser for power users who are already invested in Windows. It offers features that Chrome lacks out of the box, such as built-in vertical tabs, a sidebar for quick tools, and the Copilot artificial intelligence integration. In real-world usage, Edge is genuinely better at battery management than Chrome. Microsoft has tuned it to put inactive tabs to sleep much more aggressively, which means if you're on a laptop in a coffee shop, Edge will likely give you an extra hour of life. However, it is incredibly aggressive with advertisements for other Microsoft services. You will constantly see prompts to use Bing, move your files to OneDrive, or join Microsoft Rewards. If you're fine with that, the performance is actually snappier than Chrome on Windows systems because of how deeply it's baked into the operating system kernel. The jump from the old Edge to this version was like moving from a tricycle to a sports car. When you weigh it against Chrome, the decision comes down to your personal tolerance for bloatware versus your need for battery efficiency. If you want the most refined Windows experience possible and don't mind the occasional nudge from Microsoft to use their services, Edge is technically the superior browser. Mozilla Firefox is the independent spirit of the web, and it's arguably the only major browser that doesn't rely on Google's underlying technology. Its identity is privacy-focused and non-corporate. While Chrome and Edge use the Blink engine, Firefox uses the Gecko engine. This is critical because it means Firefox is the only thing keeping the web from becoming a total Google monopoly. If Google decides to change how web advertising works, Chrome and Edge follow suit because they are built by the same core developers. Firefox has the power to say no. In terms of performance, Firefox is surprisingly competitive. It handles heavy web applications like video editors or complex spreadsheets well, and its container technology is unique. You can put your social media sites in one container and your bank in another, and they physically cannot talk to each other, which prevents trackers from following you across the web. However, you will occasionally find a niche website that is poorly coded and will refuse to render correctly in Firefox because the developer only tested it in Chrome. This is not Firefox's fault, but it is a reality you have to deal with. Firefox feels a bit heavier on startup, but it manages sustained long-term sessions better. It doesn't suffer from the memory leak issues that plague Chrome once you've had a window open for 3 days straight. It's the browser for the user who wants to be a citizen of the internet, rather than a product for advertisers. Safari is the locked-in choice for anyone deep in the Apple ecosystem, and it's the fastest browser on Earth if you're using a Mac. Its identity is hyper-optimized efficiency. Because Apple builds the hardware, the operating system, and the browser, they can do things with power management that no other company can touch. Safari is so efficient that it often feels like it's not even using your processor. If you have an M1, M2, or M3 chip, Safari will give you better battery life than any other browser, period. In terms of capabilities, it integrates perfectly with iCloud Keychain for passwords and Apple Pay for quick checkouts. However, the downside is that it's a desert of customization. The extension library is a fraction of what you get on Chrome or Firefox, and if you dislike the way Apple handles tab grouping or interface design, you're stuck with it. You can't customize the engine, you can't move elements around, and you're essentially living in a high-end walled garden. Real-world usage shows it handles video playback significantly better than Chrome on macOS because it uses native hardware decoding. If you're a video editor or someone who watches a lot of 4K content, Safari will keep your Mac cooler and quieter. If you're comparing a modern Safari on a Mac to a Chrome installation, you'll notice that Safari wakes up from sleep much faster and feels more fluid with trackpad gestures. It's the epitome of the flagship tier for hardware-software integration. Brave is the disruptor, a browser that takes the Chromium engine and bolts on a massive ad blocking and tracker blocking system by default. Its identity is the Chrome but without the tracking experience. When you launch Brave, it's already stripping out the scripts that companies like Google use to monitor your movement from site to site. This makes it feel incredibly fast, specifically on news sites or media outlets that are bloated with tracking scripts. It essentially cleans the web of its heaviest parts before they even load. However, the catch is the business model. Brave includes a built-in cryptocurrency token system that encourages you to view their own ads to earn money. It's a controversial addition, and many users find it intrusive. However, you can toggle all of those features off, leaving you with a very clean, very fast, and very secure version of Chrome. In terms of compatibility, because it uses the Chromium engine, it's effectively perfect. Anything that works in Chrome works in Brave, but it loads faster because the trackers never hit your screen. If you're a privacy-conscious user who wants the power of Chrome extensions but refuses to use Google's data-hungry environment, this is your primary choice. Comparing it to an older, non-privacy-focused browser is night and day. You'll save gigabytes of data over a month simply because you aren't downloading all those invisible tracking files. It feels like an enthusiast here because it requires you to be a bit more aware of your settings to get the full experience, but it's powerful. Opera GX is a niche browser specifically designed for gamers, and it's effectively a modified version of Chromium that features a GX control panel. This is a set of sliders that allows you to limit exactly how much RAM and how much of your processor the browser can use at any given time. This is a game changer if you have a mid-range PC and you want to keep your browser open while you're playing a demanding game. Most browsers will try to take as much memory as they can get, which leads to your game stuttering. With Opera GX, you can force the browser to only ever use 2 gigabytes of memory, preventing it from ever interfering with your gaming sessions. It also comes with a built-in integration for Twitch and Discord on the sidebar, allowing you to watch streams and chat without leaving your tab structure. However, the aesthetic is very gamer, meaning it's filled with neon lights, aggressive sound effects, and dark themes that you might find either cool or incredibly annoying. There's no middle ground. The browser also has a built-in VPN, though it's more of a proxy than a true high-speed security VPN. If you're a casual web user, the neon aesthetic is probably not for you, but if you have a machine that struggles under heavy loads and you're constantly gaming, this is the only browser that actively helps you manage your hardware limits. Choosing the right browser ultimately depends on your priority. Are you looking for the deepest integration with your operating system, the highest level of privacy, or the best management of your hardware resources? Chrome and Edge are your productivity horsepower, where compatibility is the #1 goal. Firefox is your ethical choice, keeping the web open and diverse while offering the best tools for managing separate digital identities via containers. Safari is the only logical choice if you're deep in the Apple ecosystem, because the power efficiency benefits are impossible to ignore for laptop users. Brave is the middle ground for people who want the web to be fast and private without having to learn how to code or configure complex firewall settings. Finally, Opera GX is for the person who treats their computer like a performance rig and needs to keep a tight leash on how their software behaves during high-intensity tasks. Moving to a browser that matches your specific workflow can save you significant time and frustration. The web is essentially a giant web app now, and the browser is the only piece of software that stands between you and the complexity of the internet. Picking the right one changes the speed of your life, the privacy of your data, and the consistency of your digital experience, so take the time to test which engine powers your daily life the best.